Hello, Clan fans. We are officially back from our 2-week hiatus, and we have episode 8 of season 5 of Outlander to talk about. So, this episode was definitely not as heavy as the last one, but it dealt more with the trauma that Roger was dealing with, and we saw the return of a character favorite here, which honestly I was not expecting until the last episode of the season because I think it didn't happen until the end of the book, but they might have changed the order around here. So let's talk about episode 8, Famous Last Words. Alright, so Roger, we actually see a quick little flashback at the beginning of him talking about, like, what would your last words be to his class. And this is back in I guess it was 69, yeah. And he's talking to his students, and he tells them what his last words would be. And Brianna has also joined the class for a second, and she asks him if those really would be his last words. However, this is a little foreshadowing here. We don't quite hear the answer that Roger has until the very end. So we get to see not exactly how everything happened that led up to Roger's hanging, but we saw how his good old ancestor, who was played by Graham McTavish, and I had no idea, which that shocked me, honestly. I think I was too busy worrying about Roger to realize that, OMG, that is Graham McTavish. But once I saw that scene again, I was like, yep, I should have known. Okay, now I know. So, in a moment of anger, his ancestor turned Roger into the militia, and the militia paid no attention to who Roger was. And unfortunately, the governor had told his men to make examples out of 3 of the prisoners by hanging them. Unfortunately, Roger was one of those 3. And you see throughout the whole episode his memory of this moment. And it's an interesting way that they did this. It's not just an actual playback of the moment in the show's format. You see it as a silent film, which is different. So that was actually kind of interesting to see how they did that. And it also has a big metaphorical meaning because it's almost like, because his vocal cords were damaged, he can't really speak quite yet. So it's almost like he can't say anything, so it's silent film. It's kind of how it feels. So, yeah, it was interesting to see how they did that. And he is constantly reliving it. He is seeing the moment the noose was put around his neck, the moment that the barrel was kicked out from under him, and he managed to get his hand loose from his bindings, and he quickly grabbed onto the rope so he'd have some room to breathe, even though barely saved him. It's not a fun thing to watch, and you can imagine how awful it must have been for him to go through. So yeah, just watching that throughout the episode, watching him deal with his trauma, you really felt for him. And Brianna is trying throughout the episode also to try to help him speak again. She wants him to heal. And she goes through all the usual, first you're understanding, you try to calm them and get them through it, but then there comes the point where there's no progress being made and you get frustrated, and she kind of plays a little tough love at one point. She also tries to relate to him because she went through something traumatic where it was something she had to live with, that she had to manage to get past in order to be there for her husband and child. So she tries to relate to him in that sense. But to no avail at that moment. However, not all hope is lost for Roger because we have, like I mentioned, a favorite character comes back, and unfortunately, no, it's not Murtaugh, who we saw a little tribute to in this episode. Jocasta came to visit, and she sang at his grave, and she talked to Jamie for a little bit. So that was a nice little moment that she got to have for Murtaugh. But no, it is not Murtaugh. I'm trying not to get sidetracked here. So while Jamie and Claire are playing with Jemmy out in the woods, a wild boar almost attacks Jamie, but then an arrow pierces through and kills the boar, and you wonder, who? What? How? And then you look up at the hill, and you see a man you do not quite recognize. It is not a stranger. However, it is young Ian. I honestly read a spoiler about this earlier, accidentally, and I knew he was going to be in this episode. I didn't know how he was going to return, how he was going to look, but wow. I mean, I did not expect him to come back in this episode because, like I said, I think in the book he didn't come back till the end. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is what I read. And gosh, he is very different. Not just the appearance, because he's made up to look more like a Mohawk native, but he is very quiet, kind of withdrawn, and you kind of wonder, like, what happened to him. And obviously, if you've read the books, you know. We don't quite learn until, like, the end of the episode, but throughout the time he spends there, he's just kind of quiet. He doesn't want to answer too many questions about his time with the Mohawk. We later learn when he's on a trip with Roger, because they're surveying the land that the governor wants to grant as an apology. Gonna do a lot more than that than just give him land, Mr. Tryon. So, yeah, we learn that young Ian went through something traumatic also. So it's interesting that both he and Roger are on a trip. They've both gone through something traumatic. They actually end up helping each other deal with it. And we learn that young Ian had a wife at the tribe. And we don't quite understand what happened entirely, but she's not dead. Their relationship just ended up not working out. I actually read because of they weren't able to produce a child together. And eventually Ian was able to leave, and that's when he came back to Fraser's Ridge. But he's still haunted because he did love his wife. And he wasn't able to make it work, and he feels bad that he just of everything that happened after that. So he actually tries to attempt suicide at one point with water hemlock, but Roger stops him because Roger also has an epiphany during the time that they're out in the woods. He remembers, like I mentioned, he constantly remembers being hanged, but there was one memory that wasn't quite popping up, and that was the moment when he saw Bree's face. Oh. He remembered his wife, and he later tells Brianna it's not the words that matter at the end, it is who you see, who you imagine before you die. And he realizes that he does need to fight to be with her, to be with their son. So he has this epiphany, and that's how he's able to help young Ian. And he also finally speaks for the first time. So it was really interesting to see how these two characters played off of each other with their trauma and how they were able to help each other heal in a sense. Maybe not 100%, but it was a big step towards healing. So I really thought that was interesting because I don't know if they have this moment in the books, you know, book readers, if you could please give me some answers, I would very much appreciate it. Yeah, I only know the facts as much as I can. But yeah, if this moment didn't exist in the books, I think the writers did a great job bringing these two characters together to help each other deal with the trauma that they've been through. And yeah, it was a great episode. It was a little hard to watch, honestly, because it is hard to see characters, people in general, go through trauma like that. And you don't know how they're going to get through it because you maybe yourself have gone through similar things and you don't know how you got through it. And yeah, it's a tough thing to watch. So this episode was definitely a heavier episode in that sense. We didn't have to deal with death, except for the wild boar, which... But trauma can sometimes be its own cross to bear, in a sense. So, yeah, it was interesting to see that. And to see how the characters played off of each other throughout the time that Roger and young Ian were healing. And we also learned that Marsley, though she tries, is not very good at comforting people. She attempted to comfort Roger at one point with a little fortune teller card game, but it kept showing the hanged man card. And honestly, the second time she did it, I was like, Marsley, why didn't you take that card out the second time? Unless there were two sets. But yeah. And then she tries to talk to young Ian at one point, and reminding him of his family and things maybe wasn't the greatest way to open him up, but she tried. At least she got more screen time. We haven't seen her as much as I thought we were going to this season, but hopefully we'll see more of her apprenticeship with Claire. Also, I thought she had given birth in the last episode because Fergus was not around for Elements. So, I don't know why he was absent from that. Maybe I missed something, but something to note that I was not really aware of, maybe. But yeah, great episode. I thought it was really interesting that it was more focused on Roger and how he was dealing with everything. But I think I like that we're going to, like, into the next episode, we're going to actually see more action unfold, and it's gonna get intense because it looks like Mr. Bonnet might be making a return. Literally, I was quivering inside when I was bringing him up. I just don't like him, guys, and I'm sure you understand why. He's a complicated character. And he wants Jemmy, which is not good. Also, people have been complaining about how Jemmy has blonde hair, which, okay, yes, I know character traits work where usually, I guess it's the father's hair color that the child receives, but sometimes there are traits that get skipped a generation. We don't really know what Roger's parents looked like, because obviously we know what Claire and Jamie look like, and they're not blonde, but we don't know. And sometimes that happens with eye color too. That could explain why Brianna has brown eyes while her parents have blue. I'm just gonna throw this out there because people have mentioned it, and I'm not trying to throw any hate out there. I'm just trying to make a point, an opinion. That's all. Just another way of thinking about it. So, yeah. Alright. I think this episode was, like I said, a tough one. I'm glad it wasn't as heartbreaking as the previous episode because Oh, it's hard for me to even watch that. I can't watch the full episode anymore. I only watch it in parts now. Having to rewatch Murtaugh's death was like stabbing my heart again. So yeah, I hope you guys are doing okay with that too. It was definitely tough, and like all these thoughts went through my head, like it's so strange to think how Murtaugh is gone now. It's official. My theory was right about it being his last goodbye with Jocasta, and that honestly, like, if I had to be wrong about things sometimes, I wouldn't mind. I honestly would not mind. But unfortunately, it came true. So just like realizing, like, yeah, that was his last moment, but also to get to see him with other characters that we wouldn't have imagined him with in the books, that was nice. So we have that. And it'll be interesting to see how his death really impacts Jaime and how he goes into the Revolutionary War. I can imagine he's going to do it for Murtaugh now. So, yeah. And I think that's it. It was nice seeing Rollo again, and of course Adso. He got one little moment in there, but I'm sure we'll see him again. And as my friend has pointed out, we need to see Rollo and Adso together. We need that scene. I'm just going to point that out. Okay, guys, let me know what you thought of the episode. Honestly, I thought it was really well done. There were so many little details throughout that really brought the characters together. Lord John was in it. I forgot to mention him. Sorry. He's a good friend. I honestly hope we get to see a little more of him the last half of the episode. He's only been in, is it 3 episodes? I think only 3. So hopefully we'll get a little more of his character in the last few episodes. And of course, we have young Ian back, which is awesome. And we will get to see how the war continues to unfold, what happens with the whole bonnet crisis. And yeah, we just got a few more episodes left, guys. Because I think, yeah, we only have 12. So make it count, guys, because hopefully by the end of Outlander, we will be out of this self-quarantine. Things will be a little more back to normal. And yeah, I know it's been crazy, and I will love to wish you guys I would love to wish you guys a happy Easter, a happy Passover, and just, I hope all of you are doing well. I know this has been a hard time. It's been so crazy, but like the article in the Washington Post mentioned, which is funny that they did, hopefully there is a Claire Fraser out there working on a treatment for COVID. Yes. I do hope so. Alright guys, like I said, let me know what you thought of the episode, and I will see you for episode 9. Have a good day, everyone. Happy Easter, happy Passover. Bye.